It was the right decision, and it was for the right reasons. But I do want at the outset to pay my respects to all the soldiers and members of our armed forces who served with great courage and distinction in Iraq, for the loss of life and the sacrifices that they have made, and my thoughts are with their families. Next week, we will dedicate at the National Arboretum a memorial to the 179 servicemen and women who died in Iraq, and I think the thoughts and prayers of us are with all the families today. Nobody wants to go to war. Nobody wants to see innocent people die. Nobody wants to see your forces put at risk of their lives. Nobody would want to make this decision except in the most gravest of circumstances where you were sure that you were doing the right thing. And I've said that I think it was the right decision made for the right reasons. I think the issues that arise in reconstruction and what happened afterwards are issues where I want to learn very important lessons, and we are learning important lessons for the future. But the decision to take the action we did was the right decision, and it was made for the right reasons.
Was there a concern that the pressures on the reserve from all quarters in financial 02-03 was such that it would, as it were, threaten to bust the limit, hence the need to create a special reserve, or was there a different rationale?
Well, the special reserve was created, and I think we said it was to deal with issues of security and counter-terrorism.
Yes.
And it wasn't created with an announcement that this is money we would definitely spend on Iraq, but it was created so that there was public recognition that we'd set aside £1 billion. By the time it came to the budget, it was clear that this action would take place over a period of time. And in actual fact, the £3 billion represented, I think, a cost of £1 billion a year, in addition, of course, to the existing defence budget, which was also rising at that time, and I have to emphasise that. Yep. And I said that every single request that was made for equipment had to be met, and every request was met. And at any point, the military commanders were able to ask for equipment that they needed, and I know of no occasion when they were turned down for it. I may say it's one of my regrets that I wasn't able to be more successful in pushing the Americans further on this issue, was that the planning for reconstruction was essential, just at the same time as the planning for war if the diplomatic avenue failed.
You said you didn't see the correspondence between Mr. Blair and President Bush, but what I'm trying to understand is whether you, as a senior member of the Cabinet, understood the gist of what he was saying to President Bush in terms of pledging our support.
But I think all of us knew what the stakes were, that we had to make the diplomatic process work, or there was a danger that we would be at war with Iraq. But our efforts, right until the last minute, the efforts of the whole government, in my view, were to try to make a diplomatic solution work. And even in that last weekend, where I talked in detail to Tony Blair and was working very closely with him, we were trying to see whether we could get some of the countries who had indicated they would support no action under any circumstances to change their position. So I would say that the decision was made only after the diplomatic course was fully exhausted.
But as we've heard from a number of witnesses, we had told the White House privately in the first half of 2002 that if we couldn't make the diplomatic, which was obviously the preferred route for both us and them, couldn't get a peaceful resolution of this issue, that we would stand with them in taking firmer action.
Well, we had to prepare for war, as I said, because from June we were in the Treasury, and I was looking at options that were available to us. But I still insist to you that at every point in that year, our first priority was to get a diplomatic solution.
No, I think that's completely clear. The question I'm asking is whether the Prime Minister of the day had told you effectively what he'd told President Bush.
We knew that the options available to us included going to war. We knew also, however, that the best chance of peace and the international community working to best effect was the diplomatic route, and I still hold to the position that I think you're trying to move me from.
No, I'm just asking
the final decision,
really for a sort of yes or no answer as to whether he told you what he told President Bush.
The final decision was made in the end by the Cabinet after the diplomatic option was exhausted.
Yeah.
I kept in regular touch with Tony Blair, and I knew what the options were. but I also knew that he and I were trying to make sure that the diplomatic option was the one that was to be used and the one that was to be successful. And until it was exhausted, there was no decision made about going to war.